some private cars are causing problems because they're using the yellow lane until they get this far, then they're trying to cut across, and it's blocking off where the motorcycle should be going, and it's really causing a lot of problems. Some people in the past have complained about the way Bong does his enforcement, like, hey, it's too strict, or you should give consideration. Actually, no, I don't agree. You do need to be strict, because for the longest time nobody's followed the rules, nobody's really cared about what enforcers say. You need someone who's going to raise their voice, who's really going to enforce strictly, and that's why things are getting better. So I support this style of enforcement. Good morning everyone, MMDA back on the road. You'll see today I'm with Bong Nabria on EDSA. He's now the Chief of EDSA, of course, Chief of Traffic. If you've been traveling along EDSA, you've probably noticed the improvement in traffic, and part of the reason for that is the zero tolerance enforcement of the yellow lane, forcing the buses to keep in the yellow lane and forcing private vehicles to stay out of the yellow lane. It really does make things much smoother. Of course, it's not an easy job getting the buses under control, and that's why you'll see so many men spread out along the road here. It really does take a lot of men, and they have to be a little bit tough, and that's something that Bong has been working on here on EDSA, is toughening up some of the enforcers that are assigned here, and there is really a big difference. They're much stricter now, and I think it will help the general public, because once you get everything in order, traffic flows. It might not flow very fast because of the volume, but it does flow. Over here you'll see they pulled this closed van to the side to issue a ticket. They're not allowed on EDSA between certain hours. The idea is to try and convince companies to dispatch their vans when there's no traffic, not when everyone's trying to get to work. So they'll issue a ticket and then send the van on their way. Now, of course, it's not just the buses they're enforcing against, it's also private vehicles that zip into the yellow lane to try and beat the traffic. And over here, one more private vehicle they pulled to the side to issue a ticket for being inside the yellow lane. The idea is to keep the yellow lanes clear for public transport, to encourage people, hey, ride a bus, it will get you there faster. So private cars that abuse the yellow lane to beat the traffic, they'll be issued a ticket which is 1,000 peso. You can see right now there's a little bit of congestion here, so they're waving the vehicles, hey, move forward. And if they don't move forward, that's the time they can jump in and start issuing tickets. And you'll see the buses actually listen to them now. Before, when they waved them on, they would just ignore the enforcer. Now they listen because they know, hey, EDSA enforcers are serious now, the MMPA is serious now. You will get a ticket, they will confiscate your license if needs be. Well, what's going on with this bus? Seems like they're trying to pull him over now. What's the violation? So the reason why they pulled this bus over to issue a ticket is for illegal unloading. He unloaded in the second lane, which forces the commuters to go down and then walk across one lane. In the past, people have said, isn't it dangerous to have enforcers standing on EDSA? Yes, it is dangerous, but unfortunately, it's really the only way to get this job done. You can do enforcement by CCTV, and you can issue tickets, but it doesn't fix the problem on the ground. That's why they put men on the ground. A red car just blasted through on the yellow lane, so they're pulling him over. You can see further down the road. Again, that'll be a ticket for 1,000 peso. Sometimes private vehicles would go in the yellow lane and then use it as an express lane to beat the traffic, and that's not what it's designed for. It's prioritized and kept clear for the buses to encourage people to ride public transport. That, hey, it's not as comfortable as having your own car, but you'll get where you're going faster. In fact, there's a car here that's using the yellow lane, and look, they're pulling him over now. Aside from on-the-ground enforcement like this, there's also enforcement by CCTV. That works okay for private vehicles, but not so well for buses, because the ticket goes to the plate number, and if you're a driver of a bus, the bus isn't registered to your name, you're just the driver. So that's why on-the-ground enforcement is also important, especially for buses. And sometimes you just need men on the ground to fix the traffic, like, hey, you move, you go here. It really does work. Look at this guy speeding along in the yellow lane, didn't stop for the enforcer, no front plate either. They should stop him further along, because some people, they just put on their indicator light and then they pretend they're coming off, but they just keep going and going. Anyway, you can see he's been stopped further along. You see a fire engine loaded up over here. There's a bit of a problem at the moment with the water shortage.
100% the yellow lane.
8:05 a.m. You'll see the yellow lane is now clear, and you can see the tail end of this traffic. Someone recently complained on my page that on-the-ground enforcement can sometimes add to traffic, and yes, it does sometimes add to traffic, but the only way to instill discipline is to enforce. What you probably noticed is the steady stream of motorcycles over here, and this is the proposed plan of the MMDA to perhaps have the motorcycles here instead of over there, because when they try to get to the motorcycle lane, they have to cut through traffic like this, and it really annoys motorists, and it also adds to traffic. But here they can just go straight, keep their line, and actually the motorcycles naturally do this, so it's very easy. You don't even have to enforce it, they just do it by themselves. The only potential downside is tiny motorcycles next to big buses. But for now, it's an idea and something they're testing out. And I have to say, it appears to be a lot smoother than having them over there where they're like this between all the cars. So the result is 3 lanes over here for private vehicles, a corridor here for motorcycles, and then the 2 yellow lanes or 2 bus lanes over there. And for anyone wondering, no, the armoured vans are not exempt. They also have to stay in these lanes, not the yellow lane. That's why he's being waved over now. And the enforcers just stopped this gentleman now riding his motorcycle. Unfortunately, he's wearing slippers. That's a 500 peso penalty. And I can tell you the difference from last year and this year is just incredible. Before, very few people listen to enforcers, especially the bus drivers. They used to laugh, literally laugh. Now, when they get told to move, they move. When they get told to stay, they stay. There's a few private car drivers who are abusing the yellow lane and they are being ticketed. But on the whole, everyone's really following the rules and doing what they're told. Some private cars are causing problems because they're using the yellow lane until they get this far, then they're trying to cut across, and it's blocking off where the motorcycle should be going, and it's really causing a lot of problems. Some people in the past have complained about the way Bong does his enforcement, like, hey, it's too strict, or you should give consideration. Actually, no, I don't agree. You do need to be strict, because for the longest time nobody's followed the rules, nobody's really cared about what enforcers say. You need someone who's going to raise their voice, who's really going to enforce strictly, and that's why things are getting better. So I support this style of enforcement. So what am I showing you there? Well, I'm showing you that many of these buses are actually half full, even though they're doing exactly the same route as each other. So you have all of these buses flying EDSA, consuming space, polluting the air, and actually they're barely carrying anyone. And this is the downside of having so many different companies operating buses on EDSA. There's no efficiency. If it was owned by one company, or if it was like a concessionary to the government, they could control this much better. They could do proper dispatching based on demand. There's actually been a similar problem with the jeepneys, and that's why the OTFRB have been pushing for limited cooperatives per route. So only have 1 or 2 companies per route. They can manage their dispatch very efficiently based on demand, instead of everyone competing against each other for, you know, 2 passengers here, 2 passengers on the other bus. It's just clogging up the roads. Telling this fan to pull off EDSA because it's in the yellow lane. Let's see what his decision is. Okay, there you go. I see he has a sticker in the front for Manila Water. Hopefully they'll be fixing the problem soon, because every home and business is without water at the moment. Well, in many areas. See the enforcers flagging someone over. I'm not sure why. Maybe for coding. That vehicle that they pulled over for coding actually had a tiny scrap of paper on the front of his vehicle with the license plate number. And that's the problem they have right now, is depending on whether people are coding, they use their conduction sticker, or they put a temporary plate on the front of the car, and then they just take the temporary plates off to avoid coding. So it's like they have 2 different plate numbers. Oh, a bit of a problem with this. I don't know what happened. Let's see. It's ordering them off of EDSA now though. Bong, what happened? What happened with that student driver?
Well, they're practicing driving right here on EDSA during rush hour. We do not tolerate that. They should be practicing driving in the inner roads. If you notice, he is stalled twice, right? And needs to restart the engine, and it's delaying everybody.